Ready, Mr. Escobar?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Koenig.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Koenig, what is a digital image?
It's an image composed of unique, separate blocks of information or rectangles that are called pixels. And each one, it's a color picture, is a color, there's a certain brightness color. Or if it's a black and white picture, it would be a certain range from white to black, more likely a grayscale size. And they're set in a series of blocks in a mosaic right next to each other in the image file itself.
Tell me, especially in this case, on this surveillance video, why is it that when you look at that, it tends to be not as clear as we would like?
The main reason is small number of pixels. Give you an idea, a 240 by 320 resolution, that's how many pixels across and down, okay?
Is that the XY coordinate kind of?
Yes.
Okay.
There's about something over 76,000 pixels. So you say, well, that's a lot. Well, if you bought a relatively inexpensive camera or used an iPhone, even an older one, you'd have 6 million pixels. So what happens is that, and yet most people wouldn't say an iPhone picture is like the greatest picture they've ever seen in their life, but it's pretty good. It's 6 million. High-end cameras are more like 20 to 25 million. Yeah. This is 76,000.
Please explain to the court, if you can, what you did in your forensic process to enhance this video from the Cobb Theater.
Yes. One of the problems is that there was a lot of dark areas in the theater. And as I explained, you can't improve the resolution. And a certain amount of pixels, you're going to be stuck with that. So it's called a shadow highlight tool in Photoshop. We didn't use the highlight, we used the shadow. It means it only lightens the darker parts of the picture and leaves the rest of the picture the same. It doesn't change anything, just lightens it. So the darker areas are now easier to see, and everything else. Second, the compression, one of the factors in here, it tends to lower the contrast.
Before we get to contrast, I got a couple more questions, if I can, with reference to the shadowing.
Sure.
If you're focusing on the darker areas and you're lightening up these darker areas, is there a value that can be ascertained by you or by anyone else as to what you're doing with that lightening effect?
Oh, yes. The program itself gives you the exact parameters which you have control over and tells you exactly what you did. In other words, we could give them the parameters out of this, and anybody with Photoshop, which everybody uses, basically go in and imitate what we do exactly.
So ascertaining that value that you changed in that shadowing effect is an important thing forensically, is it not?
To
be able to ascertain the value.
Oh, well, it's always forensics. You've always got to make it so you can duplicate it. Somebody else can duplicate it.
Okay. Now let's talk into contrast. And I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I wanted to make sure we had that last question.
Some of the middle range values were just, they didn't differentiate well between different shades of gray. So by adding some contrast to it, that made those a little more viewable, I would say. And then lastly, we used a program that just sharpens it slightly. I mean, there's a limit because of the pixels, but it'll sharpen edges and all that are there to make it a little. And of course, you visually look at this as you do the work to make sure it's not changing anything. The other thing is that the final user of it always can go back and look at the original and look at the enhanced, and hopefully the enhanced helps look for what, helps them see that better or easier.
Now, the sharpening, you're not changing the shape of the object at all, is that correct?
No, sir. It's mostly lines would be more definitive that are already there.
So the lines that are already there, you're just sharpening those particular lines?
Yeah, and it's a slight thing. It's not like a big effect. It's kind of a minor effect, but it does help somewhat.
And that's all in dealing with the enhancement, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There's something else that I want to focus on before we get into enlargement, is called content highlight. What does that mean? I know it's a fairly simplistic thing.
Yeah, it's what you often see on TV where they show a video and they have a circle around the person as they move because they want you to be able to say, hey, that's who we're doing. The evening news will have like, oh, we have a suspect and they robbed a bank or robbed a store, and the police gave us this video, and either the police or the news station does it. He said, okay, look, there's a lot of other people here. The person we want is this one. So they'll put a circle around that person and then follow that person as they go around in the video, so that the person watching it concentrates on that person, because the other people aren't really a factor, because that's not what you're looking for.
And is that something that you also did in this particular case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you did, for your enhancements, you did the shadow highlighter, although you focused on the shadow, is that correct?
Right. The highlighter would, basically, if you had something really bright, you wanted to make it less bright, that's what that would do. And that was really not needed in these images.
You did the increase of the contrast, the smart sharpening, and the content highlight.
That's true.
Okay. Now, let's go to enlargement. And first tell the court why we would want to enlarge an image.
These images are very small, so if you put them in a computer or something, they show up as pretty small. So to make it easier for someone, you want to be able to enlarge the image without changing it. In other words, the enlarged image should look just as the original. Even with all its problems, it still doesn't change it. To do that, you have to be very careful how you make the enlargement.
Okay. Let's talk about why we have to be very careful in order to do the enlargements.
Well, the only way, if you take a pixel, in fact, can I draw it?
Yes, I will get that for you right now. Can I, Your Honor?
Sure.
Sorry, Your Honor. Should have taken this out.
So what you would like to do, and I'm just going to put 4 pixels here. This would be good for the whole thing, but it's hard. You can't put 76,000 here. So if you have part of the picture, it's got 4 pixels. We'll just name them A, B, C, D. Now I want to enlarge that so that it still looks like that, but I have a bigger picture. So let me So I've drawn one from a 2x2 matrix, 4 pixels, 4x4, 16. So I'm going to put in what we originally had. So we're going to have A here, B here, C here, D here. What you want to do is I want to imitate this. So what I want to end up with is taken each pixel and now made a separate square with 4 pixels that are all identical. So what happens is, this will be, we call it either magnified it twice, or I enlarged it by 4 times, depends on how you look at it. So this would be, if you looked at this, identical. In other words, this is just a bigger area for A, but they're all the same, all big. If you don't do that and use something else, you can end up with something that doesn't look like the original at all.
Okay. I'm gonna have you stand up in a second,
Okay.
but what is that process called?
This is called nearest neighbor. So you have 2 things you have to do. You have to use nearest neighbor. That's just what it's called. One. Second, you have to go in multiples that square the sides are the same. Because if I said, I want to make this 3 times as big, or, you know, you couldn't make a square. So you always have to have a square. This square, this is 2 by 2. You can make it 50 by 50 if you want. But it has to be that. So it's always multiples of, you know, I always do the integers, just square them. So the first one is 1 squared, which is 1, 2 squared, which is 4, and, you know, then you have 3 squared, which is 9, 4 squared, 16, 85. So you always have to go up in these multiples. So you can't make an enlargement that's 17, because then you wouldn't get squares. So this is pretty well a forensic standard. You can make the thing as big as you want, but it's exactly the same as what you started.
Does it also provide you the ascertainable values within the pixels themselves?
I don't understand the question.
Well, you're getting more A's, correct, as a result?
But these are all identical.
Exactly, meaning
Okay.
that you're not having to guess, you know what's happening with the enlargement process.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it's very well defined, very straightforward. You know, it's nothing complicated.
And anyone can come in after your work and see exactly what you did.
Well, you can look at the enlargement, look at the original. It should be identical other than size.
Okay. And so you use this process in order to enlarge the surveillance videos of the cop theater?
Yeah, the Q6, yes.
The Q6, okay. Tell me how you went about doing that mechanically in the video itself.
Oh. You can take the, we did it as individual bitmap images, that's the image of each image, each frame. And we put it into Photoshop. You go in there and say, I want to do nearest neighbor, and I want to do this magnification. As long as you keep it as, you know, again, magnification or whatever you want here, so it comes out every time you have a square, so the things always go out into a square. As long as you do those particular magnifications, that's what you'll get.
Now, what is interpolation?
Interpolation is that I'm going to enlarge it, but I'm going to add a bunch of pixels that never existed in the original.
Explain that.
Um,
And if you want to, you could push that over. And
Okay. If I took my example here for A, B, C, D, and then I went over to here. And I'll put, you definitely have A here, B here, C here, D. Interpolation means they use some mathematical equation, algorithm as we call it, and they decide, this is A and B, you know, maybe it's somewhere between A and B. Maybe it doesn't, you don't know. Or, gee, this one's here, does it really combine A, B, C, D? Well, depends on the algorithm you're using. So what you end up with is all of these ones never existed in the original image at all. Some algorithm has decided what it is.
And how does that correlate with what we were talking before, color and grayscale?
Every one of these is an unknown in the sense that you only can repeat it by using the same algorithm, but the algorithm doesn't tell you exactly what it's going to do.
So you really have no idea what either color or scaling that algorithm is placing in those other pixels.
I mean, you can look at them after the fact and say it did this, but these are the only, of these 16, these 4 are the only ones that exist in the original image. All the rest, it's a guess.
Okay. Now, did you use a interpolation method to analyze these particular videos?
Well, it's not really an analysis for us. You could enlarge them, and we certainly used the nearest neighbor in those multiples to make sure we retained everything.
There is something called bicubic, I think it's bicubic and bicubic smoother.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, that's one of the many algorithms that will make these enlargements.
And tell the court, did you actually use that in your enlargement of these particular videos?
We did not know.
Okay, tell the court why you didn't use that.
Well, you're making an enlargement that you don't know what. To give you an idea, our, like I said before, I think our 240 by 320 equals about 76,800, I think. Okay. What if you wanted to enlarge this to 2,000 by 3? That would be a 6 megapixel picture, not large. You know, so you're 2,000 by 3,000. That's going to equal 6 million. Okay. Well, using that interpolation meant you started with 76,800, which they've retained those, but they ended up with 6 million. That means of these original pixels, we know what they are, and the final product can only be 1.3% of your final enlargement. The rest of it, the computer added. I think most people, you know, my wife's an artist, and most people look at this process, you know, for their family, pictures, whatever. It's okay to do whatever you want. It's more of an artistic, you know, characteristics. I mean, it's kind of like you put it in Photoshop and say, I want it to look like an oil painting, or I want it to look like a pen and ink thing. Okay. The algorithm makes those changes. This is a type of changing. So what happens when it does this in effect is you can change what the original image looked like, for sure. You tend to lose detail, and it tends to soften the image.
Now, we have a demonstrative piece here that we used both the nearest neighbor as well as bicubic smoother, correct?
Yes, and it's on an actual image that's on the video.
Okay. Mr. Lacey, would you take us to that demonstrative aid?
Okay, this is the original image. As you can see, it doesn't have any pixels. So if Mr. Lacey could enlarge this, and let's go down to the bottom right corner. I think there's a nice, easy thing here.
Is this supposed to be online as well?
It should be. It's supposed to be.
What am I supposed to click on?
I have no idea. Do we need to get the IT person to choose all this?
Let me send this real quick and then we'll proceed.
So, Your Honor, if I can ask the court to maybe step down here, at least for this particular demonstrative aid, that would certainly make it a lot easier for the court to view.
She can do that remotely, I think.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Lacey, could you blow up this, like this white area right here? Okay.
Before we get started, all those little squares, tell the court what those little squares are that you're...
They're the pixels I've been talking about, okay? Here's this white spot that, you know, government and defense are talking about, whatever it is.
Okay.
And you can kind of see what it looks like. It's 6 pixels total. The 2 middle ones are on the bright side. Okay, so that's what we started with. That's from the original video. Okay, Doug, if we could do a nearest neighbor for like maybe 4 times, that same thing. So you can see we made it larger, but same thing. How about 6 times, Doug? Pretty obvious. Just what I said is going to happen is happening. Okay. Now, bicubic smoothing, which you've talked about,
Yeah.
interpolation, can we see that at 4? This will be the same thing from before. Doesn't really look like the original at all. Okay. How about 6 times, Doug? So we've gone from a nice rectangle with differentiation in the light in the middle, see how it is, to something that kind of is fairly uniform now, and it's, you know, maybe squarish, maybe maybe circular, depends on how you kind of look at the light. But that's what happens when you make that kind of enlargement. Now, if you wanted to do that for artistic reasons, that's fine. But forensically, this changed completely what the original image looked like.
Tech, let's go back just briefly to the actual nearest neighbor pixels at either 2 or 400. Now, let me ask you a question. The fact that we have here a 2 by 3 is a rectangle, correct?
Correct.
Does that define what the shape of that object necessarily is?
Only in a very general way. Basically, you got a sensor in the camera that's representing that thing, and it picks up the light. So it doesn't really say, well, what's the light up in this corner of the pixel? It looks at the whole thing and gives you that average. So it averages the light within that square throughout. So, you know, it generally is showing kind of a rectangular shape, but would it be the exact shape of it? It's just not enough pixels.
Okay.
Judge, at this time, the state's going to request a copy of that demonstrative.
We'll be more than glad to put it in a thumb drive and give it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
Mr. Koenig, I'm going to, may I approach your honor? Mr. Koenig, I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 27. It's 2 of them, but they're duplicates. I just want you to focus on one of them. We'll pass the other one back to my table. Do you recognize that particular exhibit?
Yes, sir. This is from, it's a data DVD containing a QuickTime capital M, capital O, capital V file. It's a video format, commonly. And it has a timeline which includes some of the video from the time the defendant comes into the theater with his wife and through the shooting and whatever details are there. It's not everything, but we followed the areas that were generally used by the government's time. In other words, there's additional video, but it's repetitious.
Okay. Your Honor, before we get started with that, just for the record, I'm handing Mr. Martin his requested thumb drive.
Okay, thank you.
Does that exhibit fairly and accurately depict what you did in both enlargement and enhancement of the material found in Q6, which was the Cobb Theater video surveillance image.
Yes.
Your Honor, we would move at this point in time defense exhibit number 27 to evidence.
What are we up to now? 10.
I'm going to give it back up to you. Mr. Lacy. I'm going to use the one you have in there. Mr. Koenig, exhibit number 27, have we placed that exhibit and the contents of this exhibit into the computer for purposes of facilitating the playing today?
That would be fine.
Okay. Have we done that?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Lacy, can you please play defense exhibit number 27, admitted evidence number 10?
Correct.
Your Honor, this is one, just so the court knows before we get started, if we were to play every segment of every video that we have that's been enlarged and enhanced, we'd be here probably till next week just doing that. So what we're doing, this is a timeline. We're going to play the entire timeline, and then we're going to play various segments from different work that was done on each and every DVD. And so I just wanted to let the court know what process we were going to use, and that I'm not going to, it's still going to be very long, but I'm trying to
Okay.
cut down some of the time.
Thank you.
Go ahead. This video is approximately 18 minutes.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Koenig, while we're watching this film, there appears to be some black files or images that are appearing on the system with a no recording, next image in. What is that?
All the areas where you see the black image, some of them are very brief, but any of them over areas where it shows a non-recording there. So any areas over 1 second, we put the message in there. The other ones were too short to do it, you never see them. So this means because of the motion sensor in the camera system, in the video system, they did not record during that time at all. So there's nothing to show.
So that's for the viewer's information, but that's the amount of time that's lapsing between
Right.
images.
And at the bottom is the, embedded time code time.
Okay. Now, we're seeing two screens. What does that represent?
Well, it's, two different cameras. The two cam 11 and 12 in the theater itself.
And where is camera 11?
If you look toward the back of the theater, it'd be in the back left, and 12 would be in the back right.
And if you're looking at the actual screen of the theater,
The other way around.
meaning number 11 would be to the right, number 12 would be to the left.
Correct.
And so you've gotten the image of both of those particular cameras and placed them side by side
Yes,
in time sequence.
correct.
I see that the recording times for the next frame are differing at this point in time between both of those cameras.
Depends on the motion sensor and the operating system on how it decides when to record and not record.
So they have independent mechanisms to detect motion.
Not only independent, but they're in two different locations. looking at two different scenes, different directions.
Same theater, just two different,
If we had had access to the original system with all the settings, at least we'd be able to define how they had it set.
and we're going to talk about that, as you know, later on. Lacy. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Koenig, I'm going to show you likewise the defense exhibit number 24, and it is a duplicate right behind it, and ask you if you're familiar with that exhibit.
Yes, sir.
And what is that exhibit?
Certainly, it's a video DVD format. It's got obviously title screens and all. It's got a direct video copy of the 13, 14, 42, 046 through 13, 27, 07, 998 CAM 11 on Q6, followed by a 2-time size video copy of that same area, CAM 11, an enhanced 2 times enlarged size, again, CAM 11 of the same area. And then the next one is enhanced 2 times, but centered on the bottom right corner of the video, same period of time. Then 4 times resized and enhanced, again centered on the bottom right corner of the video for the same period of time, again CAM 11. Half speed video of the smaller area, 1326, 12 to 742 through 1327, 07, 998 of CAM 11. Again, half speed, enhanced 4 times in the right corner. And then a 1280 by 960 size, enhanced, repositioned, half speed in that one area, and another one at quarter speed.
Okay. And
Judge, I apologize.
I'm good. Could you give the date of that particular video that appears on that exhibit itself? The date on the DVD.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Date it was made, 2/10/2017.
Thank you. And does that fairly and accurately depict your work in both enlargement and enhancement of the original Cobb surveillance video located in Q6?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would move to introduce exhibit number 24. That will be, I believe,
11.
11.
It'll be in.
Mr. Lacy, could you? Mr. Lacy, could you move up those 3 minutes now? Move it up. You can do that. Okay, Mr. Lacy, could you now move it back to Mr. Reeves coming back into the theater? Okay, let's go to the enhanced half-speed. Mr. Lacy, could we do that one more time? Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Mr. Koenig, I'm going to show you now what's been marked as Defense Exhibit number 36 and ask you to take a look at Defense Exhibit number 36.
This is a data CD containing bitmaps.
Explain to the court again what a data CD is and the processing of bitmaps.
Two general types of CDs we see in our field. One is audio, same kind of thing you can buy at the store with your favorite, recording artist on the CD, high quality. The other type is data. You can just put any kind of files you want down up there, up to its limit of 700 megabytes. So this just contains a bunch of bitmap files.
Okay, and the bitmaps, again, are the individual image files
Yes.
that are contained within a video that follow one another?
That's correct.
Okay. We would introduce, at this point in time, Defense Exhibit number 36. The date of this is 2/19/17. Okay, we'll sort it out.
What number? 12.
Again, Mr. Koenig, on this particular exhibit, has that exhibit been accurately copied onto the computer for easy viewing here within the courtroom?
If you could copy from a disk like that or with something else, perfect.
Okay. Mr. Lacy, can we? Now, before Mr. Lacy gets started, the control of this process is much easier. Is that correct? The viewing process of the bitmaps. Is that correct? You can scroll forward, you can scroll backwards, you have control of each individual video file.
You're seeing every frame or image that's there, one at a time. So you see what the actual image is. When you run everything together, you gotta remember your mind's gonna kind of smooth all that out, and you're gonna miss things that aren't there very long, for instance. So this gives you, at that instant of time, an exact snapshot of what the video system recorded.
And again, this one here, if you're looking at the theater screen, it is the camera on the wall, up high, to your right.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Lacy, can you zoom that up initially? Okay, and so this particular bitmap data DVD starts at 132621.718. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. let's go through. Is this the first actual file that appears after Mr. Reeves is come back from the front counter and is now seated in his chair?
I believe you're right. We did all the images, so it's all over there.
But this one in particular, this 13, Your Honor, if you want to jot that down, it's an important bitmap. 13, 26, 21, 78. And can we blow that up again? Okay, let's go to the next file in sequence. Now that next file in sequence, Mr. Koenig, is a no recording, is that correct?
Right, and for the next, obviously, 3.570 seconds, there's no recording.
Okay, and so, Mr. Lacy, can we go for that period of time, image by image? Can you blow that up? Now, I'm going to use my pen. This is the first image after that 3.6 second no recording time. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in this image, you see an object here and what appears to be a white rectangular object.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the characterization and Mr. Escobar testifying is put as an object. That's going to be a big bone of contention throughout this entire trial. I object to his characterization and testifying before Your Honor.
Response?
White item. Right there.
I see it.
Is that the same?
Excuse me, Judge.
Mr. Martin, your objection is heard. You can object contemporaneously to any narrative or, as you indicated, testimony. I'm looking at it. I can kind
You don't have to
of see.
understand, Judge. May I step in right where Mr. Escobar is on the other side, so I'm not in his way, so I can see exactly what he's pointing to? Because his back is to me, and I can't see a thing that he's doing.
That's fine. That would probably help the situation.
Thank you.
I do. In the middle. That's what I want. Go back a little bit further. Right there. Okay. He zoomed it up a little bit more for all of us to be able to see. What I'm talking about is this item here, as well as this item here in the recording frame of the Cinebistro, excuse me, the Cobb Theater camera 11. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, that white item, is that the same white item that we brought in the demonstrative exhibit that we showed earlier?
For the interpolation.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay. And that, that item had a pixel number of 2 by 3, a rectangle.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, since the previous frame to this frame right here was not recorded, you were not able to capture that previous frame, correct?
It never was recorded. That's correct.
It was never recorded. That's why we have a black frame here.
Yes.
Let's go and go to the next frame, Mr. Lacy. I know it's going to reset, and then we can resume. That's the next frame, next frame, next frame. There's an object right here now. As a forensic expert, are you able to tell this court what that object is?
No, sir.
Would you please tell the court why in forensics, especially in your field, that that is not appropriate?
You have to have enough pixels to be able to see. It's just, you only have, it's like I gave you 6 blocks that are some white or grayscale or black, and said, pile them up and tell me, if you only had that, would you be able to make anything other than a rectangle? There's not enough there. You would need many, many more pixels to have a shot at having any idea what it is.
Likewise, this that we now see here, are you able to opine what that is now in that top row of the theater?
Based on that image, no. Again, there's not much detail to whatever it is, you know, based on a reasonable limited number of pixels, but also could be motion involved and other things that might have blurred it.
Now, both of those items first appeared together in that first frame after there was no recording.
That's correct.
Next frame. Is that a no recording frame?
It is.
Next frame. Is that a no recording frame?
Yes, sir.
Next frame. Blow it up, please. This frame is 1405-270 Q6 Cam 11. Is that correct?
Yes.
And likewise, you're not able to tell what either of those two items are.
Not looking at that image, that's correct.
Next frame. No recording.
No recording.
Next frame. No recording.
No recording.
Next frame.
No recording.
Next frame.
Recording.
Now, before we take the time period, this frame has a time period like the other ones did. It's just that we enlarged it so much that the other ones didn't take. 13/26/25/65. Still see an item of some sort there and an item of some sort there. In that last row of the Cobb Theater. Correct?
Correct.
Can't opine on that either.
That's correct.
Next frame. No recording.
No recording.
No recording.
Yes.
No recording. (13/26/25/7/55). See a smaller portion of that item and another white item there. Can you opine what that is?
No, sir.
Next frame.
No recording.
Next frame.
No recording.
Next frame. (13/26/25/8/55). Now the object that was here is almost totally vanished, but now we still have a white item still in row A, or top row of the comp theater. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Next frame.
No recording.
Next frame.
No recording.
Next frame. $13, $26, $25, $9.56. The item that appeared to be in row A has vanished. The white item that we were focusing on before has also vanished.
That's correct.
Next frame. $13, $26, $25, $9.89. Next frame. Next frame. Next frame. Next frame. Next frame. And Doug, I'm going to have you go in the small. The court has a monitor up at the front that she can see the small. So let's go small all the way until I tell you to stop. Go. Now, there appears to be 7+ seconds, almost 8 seconds, between now and the next frame. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, this frame is 13, 26, 35, 765. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That is the first frame after 8 seconds of no recording.
Approximately 8 seconds, yes.
Next frame, no recording.
Correct.
Next frame, no recording. Next frame, that's 13, 26, 35, 865. Next frame, no recording.
Correct.
Next frame, no recording.
Correct.
Next frame, that is 13, 26, 35, 996.
Actually, it's 966.
Excuse me, 966. Next frame,
No recording.
next frame. Next frame,
No recording.
next frame,
No recording.
next frame,
No recording.
next frame. Next frame,
No recording.
next frame,
No recording.
next frame. Until we get to 322, 13, 26, 25, 322, keep going. Yep, we're here. Right here, 13, 26, 35, 765. Okay, we're here, so we can go to that one. Keep going. Keep going. Mr. Lacy, I want you to go back. Okay, I want you right there, blow it up. 13, 26, 36, 266. Next one. Blow it up. Now, we're starting to see something in this particular area. Is that correct, Mr. Coney?
Yes, sir.
Next frame. That item is coming in closer to,
Your Honor, I'm going to object to Mr. Escobar testifying and actually describing the
I won't
content of
describe
the
it.
video.
That was my fault. I shouldn't have done that. This item is still in the frame. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Next one. 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 We've gone through all the way up to 13, 26, 36, 7, 33. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next frame. 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 Okay, that's fine. We can work on those. Now, Mr. Lacy, I'd like you to go to 13, 26, 37.834. You zoom it in. Okay. Now, we're going to go back and we're going to do some calculations. I'd like you to do some calculations based upon these particular bitmap images. Mr. Lacy, I'd like to go to 13, 26, 21, 718. That's that original first frame that we talked about. And Your Honor, some of these time periods may be extremely relevant if the court wants to take notes of the ones that we're going to be highlighting. I would appreciate it. Now, if you recall, your testimony was that for about 3.6 seconds after that frame, there was no recording.
That's correct.
Mr. Lacy, can you go to 13, 26, 25, 322? Is that the first image after that 3.6 second no recording period?
Yes, sir.
Now, there's a sequence of files there that ends at 132627.934. Is that correct?
Say it again, 13,
26, 27, 924. Could you give the court the calculations in seconds for that sequence?
if I wrote it down right, it's 6.206.
It would be we just want the 13, 26, 25, 30, 22.
Oh, you're changing. Yeah, you want 13, 26, 27.
No, 13, 26, yeah, 13, 26, 25, 322, and 13, 26, 27.924. What is the seconds that that sequence of files takes? Mathematically, I may be able to help you out, 2.602.
I wrote the wrong. 13, 26, 27, 924.
Right? And the starting point is 13, 26, 25, 322.
It's 2.602.
2.602, that's what I said. Okay, and so you now have no recording. It was your testimony before, 7.807 seconds. Is that correct? After that 13, 26, 27, 924, there is no recording for 7.807 seconds. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the first frame after that 7.8 seconds is 13, 26, 35, 765. 13, 26, 35, 765.
Yes.
Now, you remember that what we saw on the video to be a flash or a muzzle flash was at 13, 26, 37, 834.
834.
834.
Okay.
Now, the difference between 13, 26, 35, 765 and the muzzle flash is how many seconds?
Knowing too many numbers.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Okay, 13, 26, 35, 765. And what's the other one?
13, 26, 37, 834. That was the first frame after the unrecorded 7.807 second segment.
I wrote it down right, it's 2.059 seconds.
Okay. So between that first frame that appears after the 7.807 second mark, you have 2.069 seconds. Is that correct? Or 5.9?
5.9.
Okay. Mr. Lacy, can we go back, or you're there already? Okay. So this is the frame right here. 13, 26, 35, 765. That's a frame where you do not see that object moving in and then moving out.
Your Honor, again, I'm going to object. We're watching still frames here. Still frames, frame by frame. He's testifying. I object.
So noted. I'll look at it on my own.
So this is the first frame after that movement of some sort and the muzzle flash. 2.069 0.069 seconds.
And I'll accept that as a muzzle flash because all the dust came down right after that.
Okay,
So it obviously occurred somewhere in that time frame.
okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked now as Exhibit 29.
This is a video DVD. It contains a bunch of loop portions, Cam 11.
And what are looped portions of camera 11? What's that mean?
It means that just one section played over and over and over again.
Okay. And is forensically that appropriate?
Sure, it's just the same area repeated over and over again.
Okay. And does that exhibit fairly and accurately depict what you recorded from the Q6 hard drives from the video surveillance of the Cobb Theater?
Yes, sir.
We would introduce exhibit number 29.
Mr. Escobar, is there 2 discs with that?
That's remember
I have 2.
remember I said that's a copy. I'll give you the date now. Which will be introduced 13, and the date is 2/9 of 2017.
I have 2.
Mm-hmm. Camera 11.
All right, so I have 2. Do we have an A and B? I want my exhibit numbers. I want the record to be absolutely clear.
I'm gonna give you the exhibit numbers as I introduce them.
Thought you just did that. Judge, we have defense exhibit number and,
We've got something that came in as 13. Was it 1 or 2?
Judge, I'm only introducing one at a time. I haven't introduced 2 at all throughout this whole process. So he'll have to wait, and when I introduce the second one, then he'll be able to.
I need to have a chance to look at the exhibits, and this is stuff that was handed to me this morning.
Judge,
So
this is.
can we have just a little bit of courtesy between the lawyers? Show me what his is. Just let me look at what he's showing him, and then I can figure out what I have. It's not like I've had days to look at this. And Judge, please accept my apologies for raising my voice.
It's okay. Wasn't that high?
It was more than it should have been.
In the packages, there's a rubber band around them. Is it 2 or is it 1?
Your Honor, this is going to be A and B, okay? Or we're going to make this another number. This is the second one. This is the only one that's going to have it that way. We've always got 2 because we want one to keep and one to introduce. So I've only been introducing 1.
But there's 2 in your hand because one's your copy and one you're putting in?
In most of these, this one is going to be actually one we're going to introduce as well.
Okay.
We're going to give that a number.
Okay. But you're putting a sticker on the ones that are coming in? Okay.
Everyone that I'm introducing, she's putting a sticker on before we play it.
Okay. And you'll certainly at some point let Mr. Martin get clear as to what is admitted.
Yes.
I'm clear to the next one.
Okay.
I'm good so right now.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just the four. Yeah. Now, Mr. Koenig, this has two circles, one red, one yellow. Is that the highlight that you put? It's called content highlight?
Yes, that was at the direction of your office. You picked out the areas to be done.
Mr. Koenig, this is at a slower rate of motion, is that correct?
Half speed, yes, sir.
And Mr. Koenig, this is all a looped video at that 1326.25 plus area, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Koenig, this is quarter speed?
Yes, sir. Also want to point out, if you look like around the individual moving forward, you kind of see a kind of a squarish rectangular change in the green.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's called blocking. That's caused by the compression in the system. And so it's an artifact of the compression of the recording system. It's going to occur in areas where there's movement usually.
Koenig, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit number 29A. Have you take a look at that exhibit?
Okay?
And do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes.
What is it?
It's again, having enhanced and magnified loops with highlighted objects, parts of CAM 11, Q6.
Okay. And does that fairly and accurately also depict what you enhanced and enlarged from Q6, which is the video surveillance camera of the Cobb DA?
Yes, sir.
Not the edge design, no edge design. There was the edge. The edge, the edge of frame. This is not the edge of frame. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would move this into evidence.
Okay. 14? Yeah.
Mr. Lacy, would you play this? Just forward. No, I'm just saying, just forward, we don't want to go reverse, just forward. Now, Mr. Koenig, this is without the content highlighted, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Koenig, all of these loops that we're watching, do they start at that first frame that we talked about after the period of time had lapsed where there was no recording?
Yes, sir.
So both this one and the previous exhibit that we talked about, which would be exhibit number 13.
Yes, sir.
Now, again, Mr. Koenig, this is 50% playback, 400% enhanced?
Yes, sir. 400%
Large,
large.
excuse me. Mr. Koenig, this is 25% playback, 400% enlarged,
Magnified.
magnified. Now we've been going for about 2 hours. It may be a good time for a break, because there's another series of videos that are a little different that we're going to be introducing next.
All right, it would be a good time for a break. Let's take 15, how are we doing on time?
10
10 or 15 minutes?
15 if we can.
All right, 15 minutes.